Hello, Net. Welcome to the very first episode of ToK and TALK. I'm your host, Ilya Avramov, and I'll be joined by my two fellow co-hosts, Oliver Magmogensen
Hello, hello.
and liam.monarov.
Hey,
Today's topic is why do we seek knowledge? But before we can answer that question, we have to first break it down and properly understand it. So, do you guys have an idea?
As a conglomerate, we will interpret the term why as a large blanket statement that encases human desires or traits that we are born with. The term seek refers to the way in which knowledge is acquired or attempted to be acquired. Knowledge is defined by the Oxford Dictionary of English Language as fact, information, and skill acquired through experience or education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject.
Last part of this question that really ties it all together is the we part actually, which in this context means humanity and our natural curiosity to learn and, find out new things about nature and science, which Liam has something to say about.
yes, so to start answering the question, I believe we, as a species, as humans, seek knowledge due to uh, due to us being a naturally curious species. Humans believe that learning more will improve everyday lives and result in positive outcomes for the species, both as a conglomerate and as individuals, and it will benefit our society. The more we know about the world we live in, the more we can use its available resources to enhance our day-to-day lives. Uh, and I want to finish off my little intro paragraph by saying, by asking how humans currently acquire knowledge.
You know, Liam, that's a brilliant question. Currently, humans acquire knowledge and seek knowledge through the use of the internet. Well, mainly just the internet. Well, and they don't tend to seek it anymore. It tends to just kind of just come to them as they're browsing through YouTube or Google. There'll be like these suggested topics that pop up, and it kind of just brings them down either rabbit holes or just sparks curiosity in them, and they just tend to just learn about random things that occur in our natural world, or maybe not even in our natural world, you know?
Yeah, like
Ollie,
before, for example, like a couple hundred years ago, there was no internet. People couldn't travel as much. It was a lot harder to stumble across all these like rabbit holes and different parts of the, like, for example, parts of the internet that you had no idea of, the new ideas, theories. Before you didn't have any of that. It was a lot harder. I think that's
uh,
also why nowadays there's so much knowledge because it's so free and open to you that every day people can find out something new just by looking at the internet for a couple seconds. So yeah.
so Ollie, what you're suggesting is that we're not actively looking for knowledge anymore.
Precisely.
Knowledge just knowledge just pops up, and with the aid of cookies on most websites, they track our information and give us answers to questions we haven't even asked yet,
Well,
which is
that's not always the case, since sometimes you are actually like doing proper research on a certain topic, certain science, like biology, for example, then you would be searching for websites, other lab papers, and stuff. So there's definitely multiple sides to this. But yeah.
However, this also brings up the point of the different types of biases, such as cognitive and confirmation biases, and how they can affect one's like attempt to seek knowledge, as through confirmation biases and things. Like I guess with the internet and stuff, as you start clicking on links, it'll bring you like
Similar.
similar like papers and stuff that will all tend to back up the same kind of like I guess idea or theme, should also kind of be like a gray area, quite dangerous to many knowers, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the internet, you need to look. You get more sources in a small amount of time, whereas not so long ago, half a century ago, you'd have to go to a public library or to your school's library and read book after book after book, which would take days, if not weeks, if you wanted if you wanted to find one specific answer to one specific question. Whereas now you can,
Sorry. Continue. Sorry.
whereas now you can search for it, and within seconds, m- m- tens and dozens of different answers pop up.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, though, if you do a kind of broad Google search on a question that you have that has many, that's not like fully developed yet. Like there's not a concise answer yet. It's still like being explored to this day. And you have all these thousands and thousands of articles and different websites telling you different things. It can often be really difficult to get a proper understanding of the question you have or the topic that you're researching about. So there's definitely other um there's downsides to having maybe too much information like today with the internet. And like before, if you were to go to a public library or your school's library, right? The books that were there are they have been like
That was all your available information. You couldn't
yeah,
go further than that.
yeah. So it was very precise for what you wanted, but it was just harder to find, you know?
And
So yeah,
with the internet, you also need to start asking the question of whether or not this thing you just read, like how true is it? How correct is it? And because everyone can post whatever they want, wherever they want, whenever they want,
exactly, yeah.
even if it's not edited down or looked through by multiple different people like they do with books. So there is also this step of caution that you need to take when when searching for information on the internet, whereas with books it was edited, looked over by hundreds, by not hundreds, but tens of people.
Yeah, definitely. Like anyone nowadays can just post something on a website and claim that they're some scientist or some doctor and tell you whatever they want, really, without any like consequences to it, without having anyone look over it. And some people really fall for that. So it's
Yeah.
definitely something that has to be thought about when you're searching the internet.
Or do you
So
have,
yeah.
or do you have anything to add?
On this topic, I don't have much to add. However, if we go back to, let's say, 50 years ago, the way we acquired knowledge was very different. And especially, like, different parts of the world had very different ways of seeking knowledge or acquiring said knowledge. And I'm pretty sure one of you two have something to say about
Yeah,
this.
so for example, roughly 50-ish, maybe, yeah, 50, 60 years ago, like when my parents, okay, maybe not that long ago, but like
Maybe like 50 or
20-ish
40.
uh, years ago, when my parents were growing up and going through school and stuff, Bulgaria, where my parents are from, was under communism. So they had very restricted um, set of knowledge that they were given. Um, they also were not really allowed to travel except to like Russia maybe, but there they had similar rule sets. So yeah, knowledge in different parts of the world, for example, by the government could be obscured, or like there could be just be less knowledge. Like for example, probably in like Africa, a couple hundred years ago, in like some of the smaller cities, probably education and stuff, they weren't quite as advanced maybe, they didn't have as much knowledge, so that could also be a different factor for it. So yeah.
we don't necessarily have to go back hundreds of years from where we currently are. We can look at South Korea, for example, where the government actually not South Korea, North Korea, my bad,
Right.
and China, where the government restricts access to knowledge. Recently, there was even a law that was passed in China that um, people are only allowed to be on the internet, was it, for 3 hours a day, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
For younger kids, yeah.
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 Mhm.
So that by
So
itself
yeah,
restricts knowledge and developing kids' access to knowledge and builds them into a stricter
yeah, it doesn't let
path.
them quite develop as much. It doesn't
Yeah.
let them be IB learners.
Anyway, to get back on track, right? Our our seek for knowledge has advanced and evolved throughout time and history. However, this further raises the question of whether our knowledge or our acquisition of knowledge will continue to evolve as time goes on, or if it will eventually become static or plateau.
A good example for this that I often like using is the first the discovery of gravity itself by Isaac Newton hundreds of years ago. Uh, he discovered well, everybody was already affected by gravity from the beginning of time, but um, he discovered that it like exists
Mm-hmm.
and had like a equation for it,
Right.
which will always be true, and this knowledge will never change. Like the fact that it exists and it will always be the same. Like there's always going to be a force of 9.81 meters per second working against you. But as uh, time moves on and society advances, we have found different theories of how exactly it could work. And in that sense, knowledge does actually evolve, since we're not changing the fact that gravity exists, but we're figuring out the intricacies of it. And nowadays, scientists have come up with the idea of the graviton, which is the uh, what's it called? The particle,
Subatomic particle.
for
That,
gravity, right? Liam, you wanna add to that?
yeah, I actually do have something to add. Thank you for asking. Um, it's also about gravity, but it's not the gravity. It's how Albert Einstein
Right.
uh, discussed gravity in his theory of relativity. He mentioned that gravity was not a force that attracts objects to another, but it's rather the warping of space and time around objects, and the heavier an object is, the more it will warp time. And you can think about it as a heavy ball resting on a trampoline, as it will kind of, as the trampoline
Yeah.
will wrap itself around
Right.
it.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which back at Newton's time, that
That
wasn't being
theory didn't
considered.
exist.
Not just like it wasn't being considered, they didn't even reach that um, level of thought.
Yeah.
Even with Einstein's theory of relativity, uh, hu- hundreds of physicists and other scientists still thought that it was crazy, as it didn't actually work. And even a book published about 100 physicists proving Einstein wrong, proving the theory of relativity wrong, but it is true.
Yeah. And like, who knows? After another couple hundred years in the future, the scientists from then will probably look down not only on this but other uh like topics of science that right now are being researched and theorized, and they'll probably think the same thing as we thought about Newton, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it always kind of evolves, but once we've discovered something, that fact will always stay true. So yeah, that's my
Yeah.
take on this segment.
Mm.
Ollie, you want to add anything?
Well, about the fact that it'll stay true, I guess there's
Yeah.
like there's a bit of like, I guess, controversy, or not controversy, like there's like opposing views. How I guess some people may also look at it how instead of it staying true, it stays like true until proven wrong, or proven like that it's not true, which I don't know how to elaborate on that. Besides just some theories are like they're proven true based on what we know at the time of discovering it. However, as like time advances and technology continues to advance too, you'll find intricacies that might show that said law or theory just won't work due to something we had not considered in the past and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I mean, that's a
Mm.
valid point, actually.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
because everything right now that we've discovered so far technically could be a coincidence. I mean, the chance of that would be very low, but like equations that we have for certain things that happen in nature and in science that we have equations for, those equations might, I mean, they work, but they could still technically kind of be wrong, since it could kind of be a coincidence, I guess, that they give out the same answer, but the theory behind it could be wrong,
Right.
is what I'm trying to get at with this.
Yeah,
So yeah,
so to it also that we can look at how in ancient Greece they showed that the atom was the
right.
smallest thing that you could break that down, and they saw that for almost 2 millennia after that
Yeah,
until institute like CERN hadron colliders were built
and quarks.
to to break down atoms to break down atoms and look at what they're made of.
Yeah,
Right.
and nowadays scientists are also trying to break down quarks to see if there's even something smaller. So yeah, it always goes. It's like a
Yeah.
never-ending, like a rabbit hole, as we
Yeah.
said before. Yeah.
Right.
Cut, I guess.
Yep.
I mean, wait.
Right, so just a quick summary of like what we've been talking about in today's episode. We started with the topic of why we seek knowledge, and we went down like a path of current day knowledge acquisition and how we use different sources like books and like the internet and things. And we've talked about like the dangers or like the pros and cons about them basically. And we've also compared that to how knowledge was acquired in the past. And we've given like a bit of examples towards the evolution of knowledge and things. Which then brings us back to why we seek knowledge, which is as a like as humanity and as people, we're always curious about the world we live in, and we always want answers about things, which is why we'll continue to seek knowledge throughout time, as there'll always be new questions that need to be answered by people.
Thank you, Ollie, for that summary. So yeah, that'll be it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to us. Yeah, see you guys next week. Remember, guys, it's about drive, it's about power. That's it. I'm out.